It's a bitter January morning in the Mediterranean. Commanding the Italian torpedo boat Vega, Giuseppe Fontana scans the horizon, spotting unidentified vessels in the choppy waters. At 7:20, they loom off the port beam. Uncertain of their intent, Fontana radios for confirmation. Despite the unknown, he readies his crew. The clash is imminent, and the battle is about to begin. Step into the world of Conflict of Nations, a free online PvP strategy game where you can lead a real country during World War III. Choose a real country to lead and fight against up to 128 other players in real-time battles that can take weeks to complete. Build your army with a variety of units: tanks, jets, nuclear submarines, and more. Declare war on your neighbors or forge alliances to dominate the battlefield. Engage in epic battles, choose your own strategy, and take over the world. Play with the same account on both PC and mobile. Click the link in the description to receive 13,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription for free. This offer is only available for 30 days. Don't miss out. Conflict of Nations, your world, your strategy. The air raid on Taranto in November 1940 and the disablement of several of Italy's battleships significantly altered the naval power balance in the Mediterranean. Admiral Cunningham noted the increased freedom of movement for the British fleet. The Admiralty attempted to immediately capitalize on their advantage by strengthening their strongholds in the Mediterranean. British Force H moved to reinforce Malta, but Italian intelligence detected their maneuvers. Vice Admiral Campione's Italian force attempted interception, but suffered from poor reconnaissance, missing an effective engagement opportunity. Meanwhile, Operation MB9 supported Malta convoys amid the Italo-Greek conflict. The subsequent Battle of Cape Teulada pitted British Vice Admiral Somerville's forces, including battleships Renown and Ramillies, against Italian Vice Admirals Campione and Iachino's fleet, featuring battleships Vittorio Veneto and Giulio Cesare. Reconnaissance delays caused confusion as the British cautiously advanced, while the Italians aimed to intercept what they believed to be a convoy. The battle ended inconclusively, with the Italians retreating. British cruiser Berwick sustained notable damage, yet the convoy remained safeguarded. By the end of 1940, British and Italian warships had engaged in 8 Mediterranean and 3 Red Sea surface actions, with the British showing clear superiority, especially at night. They sank a cruiser, 3 destroyers, and 2 torpedo boats, while the Italians only managed to damage several British ships superficially. On land, Italy faced setbacks in North Africa and Albania. Things were starting to turn around for the Italians, and not in a good way. However, there were positive developments. Italy maintained supply lines to its territories and achieved significant logistical successes, importing record amounts of coal and supplies. Meanwhile, the British blockade and the Mediterranean Sea War, impacted by German submarines, severely disrupted British imports. Despite military failures, Italian leadership remained optimistic due to these logistical gains and Germany's dominance in Europe. On December 10th, Admiral Riccardi replaced Admiral Cavagnari as the Italian Naval Chief of Staff, and Admiral Iachino became the new fleet commander. The Italian fleet was reorganized, with Iachino's flagship, Vittorio Veneto, leading a force including several divisions of battleships, cruisers, and destroyers. Despite no major naval engagements in the subsequent 2 months, the Italian Navy was heavily involved in vital support activities for the Libyan and Albanian fronts, including laying telephone cables, transforming vessels into hospital ships, and improving anti-aircraft defenses with smokescreens and barrage balloons. Additionally, the Navy intensified its submarine training and provided extensive support for mine-laying and mine-sweeping operations, particularly in the Sicilian Channel. These efforts aim to address wear on equipment and personnel while enhancing overall naval strategy and readiness for ongoing and future operations. On 9th December, the British offensive forced Italian troops to retreat in Africa. the Italian Navy met supply demands, shipping 197,742 tons of war material and fuel to Libya between October 1940 and January 1941. Losses in Cyrenaica, including Tobruk and Benghazi, worsened Italy's strategic situation as Mussolini sought Luftwaffe assistance. This was not very surprising. German intervention was perceived as necessary, with Hitler criticizing Italian leadership as early as summer 1940. On land, the winter brought initial success for the Allies, with victories in Cyrenaica, Italian East Africa, and Albania. Despite Allied victories threatening Germany's southern flank, these weren't the primary reasons for German intervention in the Mediterranean. Plans to move south were underway as early as July 1940, with Hitler aiming to resolve the Mediterranean question by winter 1941. Discussions with Franco of Spain about attacking Gibraltar ensued, but Franco's demands and Spain's economic and military issues led Hitler to abandon these plans. Meanwhile, Luftwaffe units began staging southward from Norway to Sicily. At the dawn of December, from their bases in Greece and Malta, the British launched a series of offensive bombardments against southern Italian ports. Naples became a focal point of this campaign, targeted not only as the principal port for Libyan convoys, but also as the new haven for the bulk of the Italian fleet, recently relocated from Taranto after the attack on 12th of November. With the Italian Navy's battleships already in a precarious state, further losses from air raids were untenable. Consequently, following another air raid on Naples on 14th of December, the fleet had no choice but to evacuate Naples. The ships split into two groups, one heading to Maddalena and the other to Cagliari. This move further west severely curtailed the fleet's operational capabilities in the central Mediterranean. Seizing this strategic shift, the British dispatched a small convoy from Alexandria to Malta. Italian intelligence received the usual delayed and vague reports, resulting in the convoy being met only by submarines and airstrikes. In the ensuing action, the Italian submarine Serpente sank the British destroyer Hyperion southeast of Malta. In an effort to prevent the British from exploiting the Italian fleet's redeployment to Sardinia, the fleet was recalled to Naples despite the ongoing air threat. In January, Britain launched Operation Excess, a series of supply convoys from Gibraltar and Alexandria meant to bolster Malta's defences. By 8th of January, it was clear that Gibraltar-based forces, including the aircraft carrier Ark Royal, had set out eastward. Italian Naval Command, Supermarina, surmised that the operation aimed to reinforce Malta with aircraft from the Ark Royal. However, by the next day, with no further sightings, it was believed the British had returned to Gibraltar. That night, Naples endured another heavy air raid, damaging the battleship Cesare, which was subsequently sent to La Spezia for repairs. With the Vittorio Veneto now the sole operational battleship, its exposure to further attacks was deemed too risky. Italian reconnaissance, plagued by inadequacies, failed to detect the broader British operation unfolding across the Mediterranean. On January 9th, Supermarina was taken aback by reports of British ships north of Tunis heading toward the Sicilian Channel. Unable to intercept these vessels in time, they dispatched motor torpedo boats and destroyer escorts to the area. As Force F's convoy steadily advanced, the light cruiser HMS Bonaventure, positioned astern, and the destroyer HMS Jaguar, patrolling the port side, caught sight of Italian torpedo boats at Oro 720, looming off Bonaventure's port beam. Mistakenly assuming them to be elements of the Mediterranean fleet, both ships sought clarification from Rear Admiral Renouf, the convoy commander. Meanwhile, undeterred by the rough sea and the unfavorable odds, the torpedo boats Circe and Vega, commanded by Giuseppe Fontana, charged towards the enemy. However, the choppy waters slowed their progress by several knots. Bonaventure, taking the initiative, was the first to come into range. she unleashed a salvo aimed at Cersei. Sensing danger, the convoy altered its course, while the escorts on the port side, Southampton, Jaguar and Harewood, broke formation to confront the threat. The remaining convoy escorts on the starboard side accompanied the convoy and did not participate in the battle. At 0741, from a distance of 3.5 kilometers, the Italian ships unleashed a barrage of 7 torpedoes before swiftly retreating. Bonaventure, concentrating her fire on Vega, effectively neutralized the incoming threat. With the cruiser evading the torpedo boat's fire, the destroyers seized the opportunity, focusing their firepower on Vega, incapacitating her guns and engines. Turning once more toward the enemy to enhance the effectiveness of their fire, the ship continued its close-range battle with guns and machine guns blazing. Closing in to a mere 300 meters, Jaguar mercilessly battered the defenseless torpedo boat, setting her ablaze along her entire length. In a swift, retaliatory move, shells narrowly missed Jaguar, prompting her to veer away, fearing the coastal batteries of Pantelleria, situated approximately 20 kilometers to the northwest. Though, unbeknownst to her, these were actually parting shots from Cersei. Despite sustaining significant damage, Vega remained afloat until Harewood delivered the final blow 30 minutes later, torpedoing the drifting wreck, which exploded and sank, with only 2 survivors. As the vessel began to sink, the commander selflessly gave his own lifebelt to a sailor who had lost his, and then he went down with his ship. Cersei, although damaged by splinters, managed to escape relatively unscathed. The Italian torpedo attack ended in failure, but to the British it came at a heavy cost. During their retreat, the destroyer HMS Gallant struck a mine south of Pantelleria. Mohawk undertook the arduous task of towing Gallant to Malta, where she remained for the duration of the war. The destroyer was too damaged for service the next few years. Meanwhile, Bonaventure suffered casualties with 1 fatality and 4 wounded. In total, Vega lost 114 men. Despite this naval engagement, the Fliegerkorps hadn't really shown its teeth just yet. However, the following morning, the Italian Air Force and German Luftwaffe's Fliegerkorps launched their first major action in the Mediterranean, hitting the British carrier Illustrious with 6 bombs, crippling it and forcing its retreat to Malta for emergency repairs. German and Italian dive and torpedo bombers wreaked havoc, also sinking the cruiser Southampton and inflicting light damage on Warspite and Gloucester. In subsequent raids, German aircraft relentlessly targeted Malta, aiming to eliminate Illustrious. However, on January 23rd, the Illustrious managed to evade bombardments and travel to the United States for extensive repairs. Its departure left the Alexandria fleet without an aircraft carrier for the next 2 months, until the arrival of the Formidable. The unexpected appearance of German aircraft caught the British forces off guard as the war in the Mediterranean grew more complex. Choose your country and fight your way to victory in Conflict of Nations. Click the link in the description to get 13,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription for free. Offer only available for 30 days. Don't lose time. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please leave a like, it really helps out the channel. If there is a topic, battle or person you would like to know more about, let me know your thoughts in a comment. I would also like to thank all my patrons and channel members for their generous support. If you enjoy House of History and you want to support my work, consider joining me on Patreon. For just $1 per month, you will already gain early access to all my videos without any in-video advertisements. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.